Happy quarantine day, Algebra 2 class. Hope the weekend was good for you. Yeah, so just one section this week. It's a little sketchy. I'm not gonna lie, but take it easy. Like really, it's just like solving equations. They just add an extra step at the end. So just like normal equations where you would solve for x, this time you're solving for x squared. Okay, you'll understand what I mean after I do a couple of these. So let's walk you through. So this section is called solving quadratic equations, which is a little bit of a lie because we're actually not solving like quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. That'll come later. All we're doing is solving equations that have a x squared in them. Okay, so let's skip the first part of that where it gives you what the quadratic equation is and stuff like that. But so the trick with these is they will give you some kind of equation. Okay, so the first one they give you is 0 equals x squared minus 36. Okay, and we want to solve for x. We want to get this x squared term by itself. So if you imagine this x squared as just an x, kind of ignore that squared at first. We just want to get that by itself. Okay, so if you imagine it just like that, well, then we just need to get rid of this 36. So to get rid of 36, we add 36 to both sides. Okay, so we say plus 36. All right, and then we end up with 36 equals x squared. Okay, so really, that's most of this problem, is getting the x squared by itself. Like I said, it's just like if you were solving for x. Once you get it to x squared equals some number, then they just have one new step they add in, which is getting rid of the square. And to get rid of the square, we do a square root. So just like always, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So you get square root of x squared equals square root of 36. I'm going to flip these around so that it looks a little normal. So we're going to say our answer to this is going to be x equals plus or minus 6. What that tells me is that if I were to check this, if I were to plug in 6 here, I would say 6 squared minus 36 equals 0. Or negative 6. Negative 6 squared minus 36 would equal 0. Okay, so this is just our first example that I walked through. Let's go through a couple more of these because, like I said, they do look a little more scary than stuff you're used to doing. But just take a deep breath. It's not terrible, terrible. Okay, so let's look at the next one they give you, which is x squared minus 9 equals 40. Okay, so again, first thing I want to do is I want to get this x squared all by itself. Again, you just treat it like it's an x. Okay, so if I want to get rid of this x squared, that means if I want to get this x squared by itself, that means I need to get rid of this 9. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to add a 9 to both sides. All right, we add 9 to both sides. Those go away. We end up with x squared equals 49. And again, once you're to this part, you're done with most of the algebra stuff, and what you're going to do is take the square root. So I'm going to say square root. Square root. And this is where that gray sheet I think I gave most of you, I think some of you guys it was white because I ran out of gray paper at the school. That just has a list of all the square roots. Okay, so x squared equals 49. We square root both those sides. So this side just becomes x. The square root of 49 is plus or minus 7. And on these, you do want to put the plus or minus, or you could say x equals 6, or x equals 7, or x equals negative 7. I think that's how they do it in the book. Either of those is fine. I just need you to know that positive 7 would work there, and negative 7 would also work there. That both of those are valid answers. Okay, like in last week's homework, they would generally ask you for one or the other. But for these, since we're solving equations, both of those are possible answers. So you want to do both. And yeah, just write the plus or minus. Okay, it's a little easier. Okay, let's go down to the next example, example 2. All right, so this one's a little trickier because it doesn't look exactly the same. It's just a little different. So we got 2x squared equals 18. Okay, so this one looks a little different because really we just have one term. We just have this 2x squared on one side. All right, but again, think of it like this. You want to get this x squared by itself. If that x squared was just an x, like if I were to say this equation was 2x equals 18, that's something you've done 100 times. You know how to do that, right? You just need to get rid of this 2. And how do you get rid of the 2? Well, the 2 and the x are multiplying, so we divide. It's the exact same over here, all right? So I'm going to say divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, right? You have a multiply, so you just divide. Okay, so these 2's, they go away. 18 divided by 2, you end up with x squared equals 9, right? Which would be the same thing as if we were solving a regular equation. You would get x equals 9, okay? The difference is on this equation, we are done. On this equation, we have one more step. And just to be clear, this was the problem. This was just an example getting rid of the x, or sorry, the exponent. So you kind of see how they are almost exactly the same. And then at this point, just like we did on the other problems, we need to get rid of that square. So we take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared, well, that's just x. The square root of 9, what times itself gives you 9? Well, plus or minus 3. Okay, that is this section. I am going to do, let me look at some of the problems. Let's do number, are there any that have, no, none of them have both things. None of them have a multiply and a divide. But I do want to do one more problem. You know what, I'm going to make a problem that has both. So give me, let's see, okay, let's do this. This is going to have both terms in it. We'll say 2x squared plus 20 is equal to 220. Okay? All right, so this one is a little more complicated. It does have both on there. So if you want, or if you can, pause this and try and work this out. All right, I'm going to stall for 30 seconds. So you can, if you're not pausing it, you can at least thinking about how would I do this problem? What could I possibly do? This is something you might be able to do in your head. All right, I just created it in my head and made it so that it should be kind of simple. All right, enough babbling. Let's do this. So again, first thing I want to do, I want to highlight. I want to get that x squared by itself. Okay, and if it makes you more comfortable, write it over here like this. Say 2x plus 20 equals 200. Solve that problem, and then at the end, take the square root of both sides. That would be your answer. Okay? So if you ever get confused what to do, remember, these are almost exactly the same things. They just add that one extra step, which is the orange step I've been doing with a square root. Okay? All right. So speaking of, the first thing I want to do, remember, you always want to work outside in. What I mean by outside in is everything that is not attached to the x first. So that means we want to get rid of this 20. So I'm going to say minus 20. Minus 20. And I'm going to end up with 2x squared equals 200. Okay, all I did was move that 20, got rid of it. All right, now I still want to get this x squared by itself, so now I have this 2 I need to get rid of. So divide by 2, divide by 2. And we end up with x squared equals 100. And hope you're like, I know what the answer is. Okay, now we take the square root of both sides. Square root of x squared, square root of 100. Our answer is x equals plus or minus 10. Hopefully you guys got that too. All right, that is 11.6, solving quadratic equations. The rest of this week we've got 11.7. I don't think I assigned 11.8. What was it, 11.10 I think? Let's see, let me look. Yeah, I did 11.7, 11.10. So 11.7 is using the quadratic formula. So, I am going to assign you Sven and the quadratic formula song because it's the best. All right, have a good one, guys. Hope this video helped. I will see you all on the flip side.